Happy Friday, Money Magicians. How are you? Okay, so how are you doing this week? I finished my 3-day fast last weekend. I started on Saturday, Sunday, and then Monday I was on a 3-day fast. I'm still kind of like getting back into things since then. It's been a really, really difficult, I think like this week was really, really emotionally tiring and I think difficult. So I just wanted to talk about that. So many people have been messaging me about the water fast, like fasting for 3 days on a water fast. I'm just like, why? Can people tell me what's so interesting about fasting for 3 days and just drinking water? Because it's really like so interesting to me how many people have such interest in this. The reason I ask is it's so fascinating to me that the assumption is that the fasting is that results in some of the emotional breakthroughs, which I find so fascinating because it's something I wanted to talk about today as well. And I was like, no, not at all, because I've done fast before, and the reason why this one was so blah and just horrible, like horrible. I was telling my sister last night, I was like, oh, honey, I think like I'm so traumatized from everything that went down. A lot of it has to do with what you're doing in the process of the fast. So if you're fasting and just chilling or whatever, nothing much is going to come up, right? You're still going to be dealing with the physical stuff, but a lot of times it's what you're doing in the process that makes all the difference in the world, right? Because it's like before when I would fast, I would just like, yeah, I'm just doing it because I felt the need to. But it also kind of coincided with this 21-day challenge that I'm running for all the Money Magic students in the Money Magic course, where we're doing the lesson 0 meditations and connecting with our spirit of money. So at the same time that this was happening, I was also doing the spirit of money meditations, doing inner child work, inner teen work, and then I was also doing breath work, where I was consciously merging my breath work with a lot of the lesson 1 meditations, which is going into the body and really allowing the body to show you what emotions and stories it's still holding on to, which was absolutely phenomenal. Like, I was just like, wow. Okay, now it's absolutely phenomenal. When I was going through it, I was like, what is this hell? What is this torture? What is this called? I don't want to do this. And on day 2, I remember I spent my whole Sunday, this is no joke, my whole Sunday I was on my bed debating whether or not to go downstairs and walk to the shops so that I could buy myself some candy or cool drink or chips or just something, like I was just like, maybe I should do it, maybe I shouldn't. It was actually kind of crazy. I felt like I was a little schizophrenic because there were 2 sides of my brain literally arguing pros and cons of breaking this fast on day 2 and getting food. And I was just like, I'm going to try and do this whole Vipassana route and just kind of like sit and observe my thoughts that are just like 2 polar opposite ends making very, very good arguments. But in the process, there was also so much going on with me emotionally, right? So I learned so much because, for example, one of the things that I learned is that the things that you often resist and the thoughts that you keep, that you try to suppress, and even I do this, right? Much as I preach about, oh no, you should confront your thoughts that cause you a lot of pain. You should confront the memories and sit with them and work through them through the inner child work or the lesson 5 meditations in the Money Magic course or these meditations that we've got going on in the course. I still do it, right? Because it's painful. And it's so much easier to convince ourselves that, you know what? the things that we do, it's so much easier. Hey, so it's so much easier for us to convince ourselves that if we think positive and we think well, then these thoughts will disappear. That doesn't happen. And I can tell you my thoughts about food and wanting to break the fast on day 2 didn't disappear. And something actually fascinating was happening, because at the same time I was like, well, I'm just going to continue with the meditations, because I also took time off social media. Like, I'd only come onto Facebook for an hour maximum for all the social media platforms. So I had like a fast off social media as well. I had no media consumption, so I wasn't allowing myself to watch movies, to do all these things. So in a way, it was kind of like Vipassana, which is probably why I had sort of like a Vipassana experience. So I didn't allow myself to just do anything except write, which in Vipassana you're not allowed to. So I would have pen and paper, and I would just sit and do the money magic meditations, or I just sit and literally just do the Vipassana meditations and allow myself to be in my body, or do deep breath work, or I do Tantra yoga. So there was a lot of just like being, I guess, with me and all that's coming up. So one of the things that I observed is that even with me, there's so many things that, because you think, oh, it's too painful. Like, I think I can shortcut this by just doing, if I visualize things positively and I pretend it's not happening and I just don't go digging in those memories, then nothing will happen. But here's the thing about life, right, is that I learned the hard way on Sunday, because I was just literally just being. So I realized that a lot of times when I have to face some of the dark, scary, traumatic things, and some of the things are not so scary, but they're scary for me, because the things that, when they happened, I was at an age where I didn't have the cognitive cognitive reasoning abilities to analyze and come to different conclusions. So what I noticed is that most times growing up, we're told certain things. You listen to family stories and you're told certain things, and every so often they'll throw things about money. So they'll be talking about an uncle that did something random and is now in trouble, and somehow they'll throw money into the mix, right? So this is a basic example. And what we don't realize is that by doing that, we start to associate money with certain things. So I realized that there were so many things that went on. Like, I had this memory that I really struggled with, which is hilarious because it came up in coaching a few weeks ago with my coach, and then came up again in this on Sunday during the fast. And it was just like having this memory where my mom had to take me to school, and this was high school, and my mom had actually had resigned. Okay, so this is directly related to my retirement stuff, right? That you guys know I'm doing the work around that. So my mom had resigned and had actually taken early retirement. So I actually grew up with a parent that took early retirement, which you'd think would be fun, but actually ended up to be one of the most traumatic years that my sister and I have ever endured, because we saw so much growing up. So what happened was my mom took early retirement, and I think this was the second year of her retirement, and she'd taken all her money and she'd started helping out family members. You know, you get like a chunk of money, so you're like, oh, this is amazing. So what had happened is, I think the month before that, my mom's car had been repossessed. She'd only been not working for probably 18 months at this point, but I still remember it. My mom had 2 cars, right? So one was fully paid off, and one literally had like 2 monthly installments. I'm not joking, 2 monthly installments left, and she owed 2,000 Rand, which for people living abroad, that is $200. So my mom owed $200 on this car. and she couldn't afford to pay it. She had absolutely no money. So they came and they took the car and they repossessed it, and we were all watching. So here's where it gets a little trippy. As all this is happening, my mom loses her car. Her sister comes to her, who's my aunt, whom I loved, right? Because I was only 13, so didn't understand the family dynamics. So a lot of that was around. So my aunt comes to her and says, "Bowungazi ukuthi uzodilika," which means in Zulu, in English, that means, did you not know that one day you would fall? One day you would lose it all. So for me, imagine as a teen, you're observing this. I mean, like, obviously, like I said, I didn't have the cognitive dissonance. There's so much that goes into that for siblings to get to that point, right? But you're watching this and my mom's like completely heartbroken. She's just lost her car, which was the expensive car, which we only use on certain occasions, right? So she loses this car, and instead of getting compassion from family, she's getting, did you not know that one day you would fall? And she'd been the one that was helping a lot. So for me, observing that as a kid was extremely traumatic. I mean, obviously you can imagine, like, having something that you love, observing it being taken, and then observing your mom going through all that. So there was all this trauma around that. And then a month later, my mom is driving me to a school in this entire memory. So this memory just like plays out like a movie in my mind. And my body is going crazy. Like every single cell in my body is on fire and just hyperventilating and everything. And I'll explain what all this has to do with money, right? Because there's so many little incidents that happen around money, and often they don't happen to us. They happen to people that we care about, to our family members, and somehow we analyze them and reach certain conclusions from a very young age. So then my mom's car, the old car, right? Remember, the beautiful looking car has been repossessed. So we're in the old car, and it's a little van, bakkie, I don't know what they call it in the US for all my non-South African people. But so we're in the car and the car breaks down, right? So we've just come from home. School starts at 8 a.m. and it's about 7:30. I literally got to school at 12 p.m. on that day because we couldn't, there was no one to help. And I observed how she just felt alone. Like, even though I had aunts and uncles and people at home, there was no one that she could call to come help us with the car. And we literally had to stand on the side of the road, ask strangers for help, get me into a taxi, get me to school. So all these things. And then just the embarrassment of arriving at school at 12 p.m. when school started at 8 a.m. and school comes out at 2:30 p.m., right? It's like, oh, all this intense embarrassment and shame, etc. So one of the things that I started to realize is that there was a huge part of me that was resisting going into these memories because of the pain and the embarrassment, right? So Tijo, you say, I have a similar story about witnessing parents, right? So yeah, there's like so much. Sorry, I couldn't read the whole comment because it flashed across the screen and then it was gone. But yeah, so it's the same kind of thing. So observing this as a kid, one of the things that I realized is that there's so much trauma there. So this is I can't explain enough, is what I want to say, that financial trauma isn't like something that's like blood and gore. Trauma doesn't work like that. Trauma is the little things in life that somehow we are unable to digest. Because how does a 13-year-old digest seeing their mom's car being repossessed and then seeing a family member rejoicing to her face about the car being repossessed? That's something difficult to digest, especially because the child loves both these people maybe not equally, but definitely a lot, right? It's not like I didn't love my aunt. Like, I loved her as well. I loved my mom. So you can't choose sides. So there, trauma already. And it's all linked to money in my mind, because my mom is like trying to negotiate with the guy that's taking the car, repossessing it, that, oh, she doesn't have the money. Maybe she could be given a little bit more time to raise the funds, etc. So trauma there. A child can't digest that, because what's going through my head at that moment as a child that I now needed to go back into as an adult, using the meditations to basically digest the trauma, reclaim my power over money in that moment, and then release that trauma, right? So that it no longer runs in my system. And I could feel how my entire nervous system was freaking out over that, because this all happened because my mom was semi-retired, right? So there we go. My mom wasn't even semi-retired. She was completely retired. So now we know why I have like partially some of these deep issues around my goal of semi-retirement, right? Because it carries so many triggers, and those triggers. So here I am talking to you guys and going like, oh, I'm working towards semi-retirement. And then there's another part of my brain that every time I mention that, my brain instantly goes back to such memories and goes, remember, this is not safe. This is not safe. So again, what you resist persists. So you can say all you want. I could have affirmed and visualized and done all I wanted. But at the end of the day, the subconscious mind only has one major program that it will always run above all else. And that program is to keep everyone safe. It's to keep you safe. So your subconscious mind only has one thing in mind, only has one job as far as it's concerned, which is to keep you safe. So anything that it associates with lack of safety or discomfort, it will shut that program down instantly. So it's basically that it's almost like I'm putting the accelerator on, but I'm also putting the brake on, because if I'm not willing to do the work around all that trauma and those triggers, then I'm saying, oh, I want to get this done. This is my goal. And my subconscious is like, I received that goal. However, this goal is unsafe. So we need to backtrack and sabotage, right? So all that, and the shame of just like showing up at school late. And again, there's this whole thing like, oh my God, this is not safe. So I could actively see how the sensations in my body, just as I was thinking about my goals and working on them, why this came up on Sunday and came up so strongly during the fast was during the fast, I couldn't do what I usually do, right? Which is I'll come on social media, chat to you guys, go on groups, chat to different people as a way to escape my body and escape my trauma. But the thing is that it's not escaping, because that program is playing in the back of my mind, because I don't want to be in my body and in my sensations and feeling that. And then, so secondly, I guess like I noticed how I wanted to eat the whole time, right? The two conversations that were going on, because eating is kind of like an activity that's also me not focused on my body. I'm focused on food and focused on taste, focused on other sensations other than uncomfortable sensations that are carried in the trauma, right? That are in my body, and the body never lies. So if something is coming up for you and you're saying, oh, I'm going to have positive thinking around a particular goal, and your body goes, heck no, I don't believe that, then it's actually, then your mind starts to shut all that down, right? Because your body is going through a lot and it's not able to process the trauma. So what you need to be doing in that moment is actually not escaping. So not giving myself that option to escape was really so powerful. But it was also not just about not escaping, it's about allowing myself to process the trauma with the proper tools and just being with it. So that was interesting. So then you're probably wondering, so what was the thing? So what's happened since then? So something very interesting happened. I've actually been asked to speak in Brazil in November, to do a speaking engagement in Brazil. And I thought that was so fascinating because, again, for me, what it proves is that as you clear layers of this work, opportunities will find you. It's about aligning yourself with the goal. And this is kind of important because the speaking thing is part of my vision for my future. So being able to hold the vision isn't about forcing yourself to hold the vision. It's about lightly holding the vision and trusting in it as you align yourself. Whereas what we are often taught is, first we must work, hustle. And I don't go out of my way to hustle. I got out of my way to align, and I'm still doing that work, right? Which is what I teach all the Money Magic students. And that's how they get their breakthroughs. It's the first thing that I teach them. I say, first you align, then you do the work. Then you go out and you do whatever your concept of hustle is, right? It's not that you're sitting down and doing nothing and all that. But first things first, it's everything that's going on. Your mind is so powerful, and your connection to the divine is so powerful that you're literally always shaping your world with everything. So the traumas, no matter how much you try to run from them and pretend they're not happening and they're not there and they didn't happen around money, they are blocking. They are the brake. Yes, your vision, your goals, your affirmations may be the accelerators, but then if the trauma is the brake that's going, phew, I'm not believing this and I'm not feeling it. And the deeper the trauma, depending on how you process trauma, the more intense it's going to be, like in terms of how things play out, in terms of self-sabotage, etc., etc. So yeah, I hope this makes sense. Let's have a conversation in the comments in the group, right? Let me know what you're thinking. We're still, I don't even know what day we're on. Are we on day 19 on the Money Magic group, in the Money Magic student group, with the 21-day Spirit of Money challenge? So it's been amazing. And guys, I kid you not, these meditations are life-changing. They're amazing. If you haven't already read Tandiwe's interview from yesterday in the group, please read it. I mean, she's just one student that's having that's sharing her experience, and I'm going to try and get more and more students to come on and share their experiences as well. It's just amazing, and I'm always just amazed by how much just like these meditations shift my world, expand my self-awareness, and bring me into a deeper understanding of how we relate to money and how that impacts our overall financial life, right? A conversation, comment in the video, comment in the Money Magicians group, the larger group, not the student group, because that's a very secret group. You can't find it on Facebook unless you're invited. So yeah, let's have a conversation. I can't wait to hear your thoughts. If this resonates with you, have you seen your parents lose things, like go from financially stable like I did with my mom? Both my sister and I did, and then just like see them lose everything because they don't have a job or they decided to take early retirement. It's so traumatic, and it's something that I'm slowly working through, those memories of my teens. Okay, so have a wonderful Sunday. Have a wonderful Friday, and I'll talk to you guys in the group. Cheers.